ladies and Germans. How you all doing? This is Con over.
This is Rangru. Low, low, low.
And folks, going back to some more monthly tournament replays here. In fact, over here on Ocean North, Rang, who do we have? What are they bringing?
Left hand side in the blue, we have Insha playing first Lovas with a Maverick income. Right hand side in red, we have, pardon me, Homa 98. I'm just going to call him Homa. He's playing at 7th mech, also with Maverick income, and we're seeing a early recon action.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the kind of standard everyone plays recon overall, but you got to look at the Hungarians over here. They're kind of expecting, I think, some of that air power to come out. They were 36 to the north, and actually nothing to the south, but they were really expecting some earlier exploratory air cover, let's call it.
Yeah, and he's really going to need recon aircraft because he barely has any actual recon units, which is, I mean, we've seen this a few times with people and think, not wanting to take recon, but the Hungarians do get some decent recon options, so it is quite an interesting move. We are seeing Homa push very heavy into the northern town.
Yeah, that's true, but this is one of the rare occasions, I think, especially early on, that the 40 mil is going to be fine. I mean, there is a KV-1 Camarotti that's kind of making it on force. There's an ISU-152. There's an early PE-2, yeah, so that 40 mil anti-aircraft gun actually will get some very early utilization here, and I think he's got it. He knew that was happening. Wow, that is actually a really great call.
Yep, gonna be getting some good hits here. Wolf should get the kill, but the Stroker DPs have managed to get into the town, and these are the guys with PTRDs, so they will have a good chance of knocking out this light armor at least.
Yeah, the 38 Toldies, again, not really known for their robust skins. In fact, you can see right now, being forced back very, very quickly. Northern Factory Complex, whatever we want to call that, Toldies are going to be a little bit more better served up there. There's not the same firepower, other than, of course, now, as I said, that the KV-1S moving on in.
Yeah, it's, with Lovas in general, it's all about, the big beefy infantry spam backed up by cheap but efficient light tanks. And also north, especially in the far flanks, do allow for that play to come in quite well. Well, Homayun, he does have a decent amount of T-34-76 spam, which he can use to counter, which actually is pretty effective. Like, T-34-76 is very cost effective, really, against a lot of the low-VAS equipment.
Yeah, and I think for me, I mean, he's got Matildas in this deck. This is, again, some of the kind of, I'm not going to say capture the loan lease equipment. That's the term I was looking for. I was thinking Boita for some reason. And I was like, they haven't
permanently borrowed.
Exactly. Borrowed with permission of democracy everywhere. But Matilda's, I kind of feel like it'd be better call to kind of drop those and bring something else in, just in general. But I don't know. Maybe that's me being a little bit harsh against the old girl.
Yeah, a rear tank to use is just like the Valentine. They take 20 minutes to get to the front line, so they're terrible to open with. But if you just need a cheap tank to defend a point, it's not terrible. It just can't really do anything else apart from really blow up other tanks. It has terrible high explosive capabilities.
That's exactly what I want to hear. It's not terrible, it just sucks at its job.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I want to hear overall. And here comes a couple of those waltzing Matildas right now. Just as I kind of pull up the stats for it over here. Yeah, 21-26, medium and not very low. Yeah, this guy's...
No high explosive shells, because the British were like, you know what the infantry support tank doesn't need? High explosive.
More of a vibe, really.
We're supported with our one machine gun.
ZSU over here. So I think Homa is realizing that some of that air power is going to be very, very important to be dealing with.
Yeah, we've been seeing quite heavy recon play here from Insha, which he's probably been using to great effect to actually get some good spottage on the front line. Oh, yeah. SU-152 going to town.
Yeah, and that's going to be kind of the consistent message here, too, is those heavy tanks, maybe not the thickest of skins, but certainly the biggest of booms, that's going to be a bit of a hassle, to put it mildly, for our good friends over here in the Hungarian division.
Yeah, 7th mech, of course, do have some decent long-range options with the SUs. Does allow him to zone out the more long-range areas, while Insha, of course, with Lovas really needs to focus more in the GQC. And now Homer's doing pretty good, just thanks to that northern push. He's got a 14-10, and he still has a good foothold in the town. He hasn't completely captured it, but just with the SU-152 backing him up from the hill, it's going to be hard for him to get routed out.
True. That's very, very true. I think for me, I'm looking at this, and yeah, the 14-10, but I'm also trying to think about as the game progresses further and further. The Young Panzers should be able to match up well against pretty much everything that the Russians can bring. It's really just a question of whether or not they get the first shot. Of course, we talk consistently about the Hetzer being an ambush kind of predator. It's a martyr on steroids. I just don't know what that would be enough, since the Russians can have that line of sight, especially in that kind of central position and towards the south.
It's really just availability which screws over the Hetzer, because he only has 6 Seville's, while there's a whole heap of T-34s, SU-122s, SU-85s, ISU-122s, which he will have to compete with. So he's going to make very good, usage of those Hetzers.
One thing that I find interesting here is the Ju-88s. The Ju-88s are not going to be, merciless killers, but I think there is a potential for them to kind of be far more stressful, shall we say, than what the Russians are prepared to immediately deal with.
Yeah, it's just getting very good reconnaissance, really, with those recon planes. You see, with the Ju-88, he's using it in a much more defensive manner, trying to avoid any anti-aircraft fire. And he, like I said at the start, he still need to do that, because he doesn't have a whole lot of ground-based recon. He is starting to push Homa out of the town.
True, and that's what I was just going to call out here, is that we have the heavy machine gun over here that, again, 8mm, more than enough to still kill a man, but it's kind of funny for me that we can't use 9, but 8's okay. And Superior Squad getting thrown out. Now we have a PTRS, so watch there be some rinky-dink kind of chicanery to take out, or lose, rather. Perhaps that Toldy.
And finally, those Matildas are going to reach the front line after, 4 minutes of driving with the KV-1S. But Homer's no longer in a good position, as he's been pretty much kicked out of the town. And without any infantry to support the infantry support tanks are just going to be tanks.
So this is fascinating. There's that 40mm that has a beautiful line of sight down that road. Beautiful right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's a heat shell, so don't expect great shakes here. It's going to go and be like, oh, yes, we're going to ping off the other direction, because he doesn't have the range on those just yet. But we could see a bit of a swing, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's really all just happening up north. I've been taking a lot... Oh, never mind. Something is starting to build up down south. Is Insha has a whole heap of light tanks ready to go, because as we've seen, it's been completely quiet on the southern front. Not even a single skirmish.
And honestly, this is the way to always play the Hungarians is, okay, your opponent is looking in the wrong direction, you do a Kansas City shuffle, go the other way.
Yeah, and you can afford to do that because you usually have a lot of cheaper light tanks, so it's easier to, reconfigure your force into another flank. And of course, you don't need as much infantry because your infantry is already pretty beefy in numbers and good veterancy.
Now, that is happening as 82mm stovepipes are starting to engage the northern side, though, too. So he's not quite on a time limit just yet. You can see right now we actually have the defensive beacon, the smoke being dropped on that position. But that's going to herald a rather hefty push from the northern side, even as the Hungarians are getting prepped for one in the south.
That's definitely a very good call, bringing in mortars, as the Hungarians do rely a lot on their beefy infantry and all sorts of support guns to really lead the charge. I'm seeing a little bit of a push here in the far north from Homa, moving some of his Matildas and infantry through that forest.
I get the feeling that they're going to be good, they're going to be very, very beefy to sit there, but the immediate utility is kind of lost on me. It's 1311, that's all well and good. I don't know that that's really going to be the greatest positioning for the time being. The Matildas are going to be so slow in the first place. I mean, they'll start a push, and 10 minutes later, they'll finally get to the front line.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think Homa's very dead set on trying to retake that northern town. It's still possible. Insha hasn't fully set up a good defensive line yet, but we do have some anti-tank guns backing up, a bit more tanks as well, and of course some mortars and Inshas, and so it's not going to be as easy compared to the opener of this match.
And technically they did have the corrected shot as a possibility if that Ju-88 decides to go to the north, but these first rounds are going to be brutally effective.
You really want to spread out your mortars, yeah, Homa, because yeah, one good hit is going to knock out most of them.
Now,
Yep.
the SD-152 does get a pound of flesh, takes out a heavy machine gun or two, but okay. Trade 2 mortars for heavy machine gun. I would do that any day of the week and twice on Saturday.
Well, down south, we got a little bit of a breakthrough here. The Hungarian tanks is going right through the gap, and there's not really a whole lot here to stop him.
Well, I like the kind of branching positions he's taking over here, too. A lot of people, me included, especially earlier on, would be like, okay, we're going to go and just kind of charge. But no, I mean, where he's kind of getting this set up, it is focused purely on having both sides of the intersection. One's looking a little bit further to the north, one's looking a little bit further to the east. And there we go. There's a 210 off map that's actually being called in. That is courtesy of some of the heavier off-map artillery that we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, that's just a very good play. Like, the off-map's going to come in perfectly to blow up the pocket, and then the infantry can just go in and pick up whatever's left, which probably won't be a lot.
I mean, as long as he takes out the strokey DP, anything else is just kind of gravy.
Yeah.
He's going to lose. He's going to lose his first Turan, which is such a shame because I have such a soft spot. Just as like he has a soft skin. But it's going to go down. I don't see how this survives. Especially when they get shelled by their own troops.
And Toady rushing up north, and they get hit from the 45mm doing some reconnaissance by force.
But alright, but that has unmasked a lot of other opportunities here too. Because now we have more Focke-Wulfs going in, more recon going in, and just basically a lot of more deadly material.
Yeah,
sorry, please.
No, it's just a very good refocus of his forces.
Oddly enough, it's still only 13-11, but I think it's just because right now a couple of linchpins need to be destroyed. Like
yeah.
the anti-tank gun.
Oh wow, wow, yeah, good kill. But up north, the Strokies have been able to get a foothold back into the town, so that is keeping Homa in the fight, and he's also investing quite a bit of some infantry up north. Yeah, I feel like he's very dead set in trying to clear up not just the town, but the forest north of it as well, as that is a Hungarian hotspot.
A Hungarian hotspot kind of feels like a spa for like middle-aged Hungarians. I don't know.
And somewhere in Albany.
Yes, exactly. But the southern side is now entirely in Axis position. There's one flag that's not being touched, and other than that, yeah, we have Denisov, who's desperately trying to keep things a little bit more frisky. The Focke-Wulf, I think the Focke-Wulf might be able to either get the kill or no, at least force back. Yeah, this is not really what you want to be having, to have your ace pilot getting taken down.
Yeah, but fortunately Anti-Air is going to back him up, and Denisov will be able to fight for another day. We're seeing another off-map call-in onto the southern town, and I think Insha is going to try and go pretty hard into here. He's got some infantry on standby, and he can hit it from 2 angles, which I definitely like his approach.
The question is whether or not that T-34 now gets kind of shredded. When I say shredded, I mean truly just kind of pinned down. Check to see that, I guess, the impact of this barrage, but I think the northern side's going to heat back up over here as we have more mortar rounds going to be traced on in. In fact, it just becomes a war of the tubes, as both sides are just kind of putting more and more and more investment. Kind of get the feeling, though, that as strong as the Strokies are going to be, they're not going to be able to consistently hold that town just to the northwest of that church.
Yeah, the Hungarian infantry is just a league above compared to Strokey DP spam. Just the extra numbers and the veterancy goes quite a long way. Of course, Strokey DPs are scary because they're PTRDs, but yeah, when you just start spamming in Husavroks, they're not going to be performing that great. But that's going to be another flag, yeah, for now, for Homian. But yeah, I don't feel like he's going to be able to hold that northern side for a considerable period of time.
Now, one thing to worry about, though, is there still is a KV-1 is able to start getting line of sight on there. And I think I saw an SU-152. Yep, SU-152 starts to get line of sight as well. So if those defenders can get hammered by a couple of those heavier tanks, well, that might be a slightly different story, of course.
Yeah, it's going to be very vital for him to use his heavier armor efficiently for fire support. And looking down south, yeah, the off-map's still dropping. I don't think Insha's actually, yeah, he hasn't actually pushed up into the town yet.
Well, there was a little bit of a small resurgent push the other direction at T-3476, backstopping a couple of Strelky TPs. You can see another one of those combat groups going in. The Hungarian, pack basically not quite taking a pound of flesh per se, but certainly being effective here.
Oh yeah, it's on a perfect line. He can just see right down the road.
Unfortunately, he's out of APCR shells, so yes, more damage potentially, but dropping that penetration considerably. Flocka Wolves back to the north, pounding those Strelkies as they come on in and taking them right back out the other direction. Wondering why there's not a 210 off map being called into the north at any point. Maybe dropping it on that town, I think, would be the right call.
Yeah, just try to route out the rations from the town and regain it, because then he could start ticking over to that 13-11. And if he can, fully capture the town, it shouldn't be too hard to hold once you can actually set up good defenses. Like, the terrain is definitely in Insha's favor.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because looking down to the south, you see a perfect example of it. These Strelky DPs getting brought in over open ground and then getting absolutely rocked as Huzaroks and just gets its Hussars down here, but Hussars just kind of engaging them consistently.
Yeah, just that southern flank push all in all has been very successful here from Insha, as he's managed to push quite heavy, or quite deep I should say, into Homa's line. And just that position south of the town really does open up like a very scary frontier. Because Homa doesn't just... Oh!
Forgive me, Katyusha's taking up like the 75 million Hussars, I'm sorry.
No, that's more than an acceptable interruption. But yeah, very good Katyusha hit, knocking out the pack gun. Just really more of a, defensive fire, yeah.
But what an investment for that, though. I mean, I understand that the point of the Katyusha is supposed to go and give that saturation fire. Would you use the two different opportunities here to check out a single pack?
Yeah, I probably would have split fire personally, but it didn't really risk too much, and honestly knocking out the anti-tank against the Hungarians is pretty effective, because they don't have a whole lot of those pack guns to begin with.
That's fair. That's fair. Down to the southern town, as you were talking about there, Arkasoks are kind of coming in behind. It gets lofty and grenade after grenade. They're going to be clearing out these positions literally one by one.
Yep.
And actually, I really love this. I don't know why.
The Russian infantry are just not going to be able to have the quality to stop the Hungarian hussars.
No, not even at all. And he knows they're pinned down. He's moving on in. He's going to go and get a capture. We go on to the Strelky DPs. The SG-43 is probably going to pin him down, but I don't know. I think this is where things start to turn around further and further for the Hungarians.
Yeah, if Insha can play the southern town effectively and get a good foothold in there, that's just going to be such a major victory for him. And still holding the southern flank, because you can just put guys in, or anti-tank guns I should say, and support guns in and around that forest south of the southern town, and that gives you very good coverage.
Now we have the pack is starting to actually engage that town as well, so prepare to see that machine gun go down, which I think the machine gun, yeah, I keep saying it's one bit at a time, chipping away. Like, the Hungarians are not known for being crazy good assault troops, especially over wide open distances like this down south. But the way that this has been handled, and I think unfortunately the way that the Russians have not been able to mass appropriately, is starting to tell.
Yeah, he just does not have the adequate fire support to deal with just the horde of Hungarians in this case. There's no SU-152 compared to the northern flank to help out, because we're still seeing the Homa is investing quite heavy up north, but he really hasn't made that much progress. He's pretty much just fighting over that one flag in the northern portion of the northern town.
Mm-hmm. And therein lies the issue with the meat grinder offensive. Yes, he might have the numbers. Honestly, looking at the deck, he shouldn't, technically. But yes, he technically has the numbers. And watch, Katyas are going to be starting to engage the southern side. A little bit too far to the west for my liking, but I understand why he's doing it.
Oh, yeah. I understand the run on the hill, but the run just south of the hill, I don't get that one. Or it might be, it might actually catch these guys as they move in. This actually could be timed perfectly. Maybe he has a sixth sense. Or Warhacks, one or the other.
Oh wait, no, they're only reloading. They're actually not even going to be able to aim and fire in time. So these guys are they're going to squirt the gap. Oh my gosh, this is unlucky timing and yet lucky timing at the same time here.
Oh no!
Oh, but they're not. And they're retreating.
Why?
I think the Focke-Wulf up to the north may have seen them. I couldn't say for sure.
Maybe it's at SU-152. I think he's seen that because his Turan 2 is starting to get pounded.
That's entirely possible. But the town is in control, 13-11, and the Ultimate Cheeky are not going to be able to hold that ground.
Nope. A little bit outgunned, yeah.
I would say never outfought, but that would just be just a patent lie.
But the interesting thing about how the southern town works is that you can very easily also get that third flag, just in that little like windmill farm just to the north. And yeah, if he does that, it's such a good position for him to hold. And just from his hill position, it's very easy to cover the windmill farm.
Yeah, and I mean, there's such an incredible amount of firepower to the northern side. So I know we're kind of looking away from it pretty consistently, but the center, I mean, one heavy machine gun's going to pin down two of these Strelky squads almost without help. I mean, yes, the Hussars are there, but still, that's another big victory right there. Again, anytime you have a support team doing the work of 2 or 3 infantry squads, you have lots of being force multiplied someplace else.
Yeah. And Insha also managed to snipe the SU-152 down south with his Hatcher, which is a pretty big kill, because once again, there's not enough support weaponry down south, and Insha's not content with taking the town. He's gonna go further than that.
Well, I think that's what you want to do, especially if you can go and aggress and take out some of this 37 mil fire support. And I say fire support, I'm talking about the AAA. That opens it up for the major kind of, not killers, but the major casualty producers thus far.
Yeah, if he can knock out his anti-aircraft guns, that would be quite good for him. The superiors are starting to fall like a cheap deck of cards, and I feel like he's that one Husaruk in the middle. Oh, Catty's firing.
One Hussar is going to get hammered. Yep. But an entire barrage, and he kills, what, 4 models? Okay, 5 models, 6 models. Okay, sure. Yeah, okay, fine. 2/3 of a squad, but... By the way, I love that we see the Nimrod. I love that the Hungarians get the Nimrod. I'm so excited whenever it comes onto the field.
I know you didn't play much War Game, but it's basically the Steel Division version of the automatic.
Oh, absolutely. It's still, I don't know. It's just there's just like such a touching level of just ridiculousness behind it.
Especially with the fact it has like a Panzerschreck rocket, pretty much. You can just like because it has a like with the Pak 36, it has a similar like muzzle-loaded rocket device. You roll up to an what's it called, an IS-2 and go bye bye.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mobile Rakettenwerfer, far more mobile Rakettenwerfer. Now that, okay, there's a Turan 2 that's going to start to duel with an SU-152 and he's being ganged up on. Come on, that's not fair. It's an ISU-122S. That shouldn't be fair. It's like clubbing a seal.
I think at this point, Homayan is just going to need a lot of clubbing in this case, because the Hungarians are really starting to overwhelm his position. So it's still only a 13-11. I mean, you haven't been taken, or on my screen, haven't been taking too much of a look up north, but he has been able to stabilize the northern portion at least, but it's static. He doesn't really have anywhere to go.
And there is the really, really important distinction. It is static. And if you look at the Hungarians, yes, there's an absurd amount there. And here we go. There's the barrage I wanted to see a while ago. But he's doing it. And I think this is going to hurt an awful lot. He's got a couple squads of troops just in case. And I think those superiors are down. I think that Camarati is going to be stressed quite a bit. And I think the Strelky is going to take some bad damage here, too. So, I don't know. I think this is an opportunity to see the Hungarian town really, really come back into Hungarian control.
Yeah, I feel like this is just a bit more of a defensive barrage, because he has nothing really to follow up infantry raise. He has that one infantry unit on hold fire southwest of the town, but that's really it.
Yeah, but he's got a couple of squads of Hussars just to the outside. A couple of and other Hussars, actually I even like this more. Other Hussars, I think the predilection is, I see somebody barraging me, my first thought is I need to move troops into that area. And then he rotates troops around. He might be able to pick up maybe this Matilda or two by at least one of the Hussars is going to be donated, but I think the other one might be able to pick up a Matilda. Yeah, it's a Shrek.
And then the far northern push is going really well here.
Yeah, I didn't even see this happening until literally just this second. This is near disastrous, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one T-34 is holding the line, and the infantry don't have AT, so it's all coming down to the Hatcher. But the Hatcher is gonna hatch.
Yes, he is. I got distracted by the fact that there's 4 airplanes that all came out at the same time. These little Focke-Wulf 189s, uh, ridiculous looking things. Truly, this isn't. You're not lightnings. Don't stop trying to be a lightning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe
One,
the Russian partisan fighters had a rather funny name for them. They called it like the flying like a picture frame, something along those lines. Because when you're looking at it from the ground, it just looks like a picture frame is flying because of the boxy design.
I was always curious about the things like the lightning and those twin engine, let's say fighter bombers, to be very very polite. I never really quite understood the structure behind them, but I guess they worked well enough. I don't know.
More
I don't know.
engines means more speed, I would guess. It
I
also
guess
just
so.
looks funky. Part of what makes a plane cool is just how funky it looks.
Oh, Komrati went down to the northern town, and yeah, actually, I agree with that tap.
Oh, he just did
Did kind
not
of,
have the momentum.
yeah, and it kind of ended with more of a whimper there, but at the same time, the Russians, they put all of their chips in that northern basket, and unfortunately, that's only where half the fight was happening. So
Yeah, it's just a very good call from Insha early on in the match with that southern push, because he managed to take a lot of territory down south without a whole lot of casualties, and he very easily held it. And we weren't really paying too much attention, but the far south, the reinforcement road, he was constantly, having all his hussars and infantry, yeah, to stop the Russians from being able to retake the southern hill.
yep, yep. Bizarrely enough, not a whole lot of killiness by unit from unit. I mean, in 1,000 difference, it's actually a little bit bizarre to see that the Hungarians didn't even break 1,000 in losses. Yes, I'm aware that the heaviest, most expensive thing is a Hetzer, not counting the airplanes, of course. But like, I thought more Hungarian stuff died. Let's just put it that way. The
Yeah,
SE1, the SE-152, that's the dude who was sitting on that hilltop since the word go, and he got his pound of flesh. But everybody else, I'm not sure they really held up their end of the bargain.
it didn't feel that one-sided, really. I think it's just the northern side is very static, while a
Mhm.
lot of the trades down south were in Insha's favour.
True, true. But that Benny over here, that Pack 40, picking up 2 Matildas and a T-34-76, I think that was the northern side. Heavy off map, the 210. A lot of stress, a lot of hassle. I think those guys are not the unsung heroes, but very much the sung heroes here today.
You can definitely hear them when they go off.
True, true. They certainly have a voice of their own. You're absolutely correct there. But any final thoughts there, sir?
No.
Well, folks, in that case, then we're going to kind of call it quits for today. Until next time, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangaroo, take it easy.